There we go. Tuesday evenings in June and July, we'll have more of these forums covering more districts around the county. And then we'll be doing some canvassing, phone banking, getting out the vote in July and August. We've got some important dates too coming up for the primary election. July 16th is the last day to register to vote. Hopefully everybody on this call is registered to vote, but let your friends know. You might check your voter registration too, just to make sure. Advanced voting begins on the 17th and ends on August 5th. And then the primary election is on August 6th. For the general election, similar dates, you can register to vote up until October 15th. Advanced voting is mid-October through early November, and then the primary is on the 5th. Just a little bit of housekeeping before I introduce Jim. We have this meeting set up as a webinar, so the panelists have the ability to talk. The audience is on mute, but you are able to put questions into the Q&A button on Zoom, which all of the panel can see and the panel can respond to. We will also download the Q&A that people type in and share it with the candidates afterwards in case anybody wants to follow up that way. And with that, I will introduce Jim Brooke, our moderator for tonight. He is a native Kansan, has lived in Lawrence since 1972. He's a retired professional engineer, former trustee of Lawrence Memorial Hospital, continuing president of the Lawrence Community Nursery School Endowment, and currently serves as an at-large member of our executive board for the Douglas County Democrats. Jim and his spouse, Lena, are Precinct 13 chairs and have filed for the third terms as PCPs to return the favor to the community that helped them raise two great Lawrence kids. Jim, thanks for moderating tonight.
It's my pleasure. I'm in awe of all of you candidates and the efforts that you make to serve our community. I'll just start right off. I have some questions for the candidates for House District 46. And they are Brittany Hall, Brooklynne Mosley, and Logan Ginavan. I hope to be sure that I pronounce your names correctly. Don't hesitate to correct me, and we'll get it right.
I'm going to jump in here real quick. Apologies. It's a hard G, like Ginavan.
I've got it. Thank you so much. I'll just start with it one by one. Please introduce yourself to our audience. I'll start with Brittany Hall. 1 minute.
Thank you so much, Jim. Hatito Hewikan, Brittany Naitisito. Hello, everyone and my friends. My name is Brittany Hall, and thank you for being here with this forum. And again, thank you, Jim. 17 years ago, I moved here to Lawrence, Kansas to attend Haskell Indian Nations University, and I have fell in love with this town. But my journey didn't start there. It actually started in Oklahoma, being born into a world of poverty and to an addictive mother. And with that being said, I was put up for adoption. And I did have this big void in my life, and that was filled when I moved to Lawrence, Kansas. And those are some of the things that have made me want to run for this. Equality, opportunity, and compassion, that is what Lawrence has, and that's what I want to raise my son with. And that is why I'm choosing to give back to Lawrence, Kansas and run for office. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Brittany. Brooklynne Mosley, will you tell us about yourself and share it with the audience? Thank you.
Yes, hi, my name is Brooklynne Mosley, and I'm running for House District 46. I live in East Lawrence. I'm an Air Force veteran. I'm a political staffer by trade and a community organizer by passion. I want to say thank you to the Douglas County Democrats for always finding opportunities to highlight candidates and bring us together. I want to say thank you to Jim for being the hostess with the mostest, and I look forward to having a conversation so that we all can choose.
Thank you so much. Introduce yourself, Logan Ginavan.
Thank you, and thanks for having me tonight. Good evening. I'm Logan Ginavan. I've spent my entire life right here in Lawrence, Kansas, coming straight up through Prairie Park Elementary, South Middle School, now Billy Mills Middle School, and then Lawrence High. After graduating in 2019, I headed right into KU, where I'm currently wrapping up my bachelor's in political science. I spent the early months of this year interning with Representative Tom Sawyer at the Capitol in Topeka, and I had a blast. It's really what encouraged me to run this year. And when I'm not thinking about politics, I'm normally at my job in Kansas City, where I work as the master model builder for Legoland Kansas City.
Well, that sounds like fun. I'm gonna share a screen now, just so that people can see what we're talking about. We have a lot of House districts in our county. And so you can see here the three we're talking to right now: Brittany Hall, Brooklynne Mosley, and Logan Ginavan. And whoever wins this will be unopposed in the general election, if I'm not mistaken. So folks who are following this presentation can look and see how complicated politics has gotten in our fair city, and have some sympathy for the politicians who had their districts changed, and for all of us trying to keep track of who's doing what where. Hopefully this will be useful to you, and you can come back and view this again in the future. Let me know if there are any mistakes in this. As I said, it's fairly complicated. Okay, on to the next question. I'm going to take each of our candidates in turn. What expertise, education, and experience do you have that will help you do your job in the Kansas legislature? It's a 2-minute question. Brooklynne Mosley, will you start us off?
Yes, that's an excellent question. So my name, like I said, I'm Brooklynne Mosley. I came to Lawrence, Kansas after spending 10 years in the Air Force. This was a place that I was planning on just living in, and now it's a place that I call home. It's actually the first place I ever got a chance to choose to live in at the age of 29. The one thing that I came here to use my GI Bill at the University of Kansas. The expertise and experience I really bring that is going to be unique to this race is that I have been organizing this state for the last decade. The first time I organized this state was in 2014 when I stepped foot in Paul Davis's race as an organizer for Douglas County. In that year, we actually increased the early vote turnout by 55% with our organizing, and we won the county overwhelmingly, even though we did not win the overall race for a lot of different reasons. I continued to organize our state, and I went and I became the vice chair of the Douglas County Democrats, where I continue to organize, and we actually grew the party by doing little things like changing the time of the happy hour to be a little bit later and going to places that were more affordable, which brought young people in and eventually started a Young Democrats chapter for working professionals who fit under the Young Democrats umbrella. In 2016, I was lucky enough to be the political director for Bernie Sanders's campaign, where we saw the largest victory for him outside of his home state. So what I'm saying is that I've been organized, and I also was Laura Kelly's coordinated director in 2018, where we were able to win, and not only win, but increase youth voter turnout from going from like a meager 14% to something like 30 or 40% by doing things like having campus organizing programs. So I feel like my expertise is bringing people together and knowing this state. This seat is a D+34, and like at this point, we're not going to be able to do anything unless we actually win and expand our electorate across the state. So the expertise that I bring is that I am a political strategist, which is unique to the current caucus, and I care about policy as well.
Thank you, Brooklynne. I'll repeat the question. What expertise, education, experience do you have that'll help you serve in the legislature? Logan Ginavan.
Thank you. I will be entirely upfront. My answer is probably not going to be as long as Ms. Mosley's. My political expertise and experience is fairly limited. Most of my experience up to this point comes from just simply taking part in the democratic process as a voter. However, like I mentioned, I spent the early months of this year interning with Representative Tom Sawyer at the Capitol in Topeka. And like I said, being allowed to just intern with him gave me this fantastic opportunity to get into Kansas politics up close and personal and be out on the House floor with him. And that's really what encouraged me to run this year. Other than that, I've spent the last 5 years at KU studying political science, learning everything I can and hoping to use it to make Kansas a better place.
Thank you, Logan. And now, Brittany Hall, what expertise, education, experience do you have that'll help you with your job in the Kansas legislature?
Thank you. Yep. So my expertise, education, and experience, my background is very unique, and it touches on so many issues that we are compassionate about here in Kansas and what I want to fight for. So education is a big one, getting my paraprofessional degree, my Indigenous American Indian Studies degree, and my master's in business administration here in Kansas at Haskell and at Baker. So education, I know what it's like to be a student. I know what it's like to be a professor. I know what it's like to help run a university. And universities in our K through 12 systems, we need that. We need those fights. But it's not just Haskell, it's also at KU. I know what it's like to work with diverse students. I am the advisor for Phi Beta Alpha, which is the oldest fraternity in the country. And that is something I'm very passionate about and very proud of. But not only that, I am a living product of what we're compassionate about here in Kansas. Again, I was in the system. I know what it's like to not have anyone want you as a child. But we shouldn't have that. We should have people who are compassionate and that want to take care of families. Family reunification is what we need, and to take care of our children. Our foster care systems, we need a lot more than that. I know what it's like to prevail, and I want to help others prevail. I know what it's like living paycheck to paycheck. Every opportunity and family deserves that, our children and our families and our elders. The past experiences don't define you. My experience is my expertise. Thank you.
Oh, thank you much, Brittany. Now I'm going to ask these candidates about for 3 critical issues facing the state of Kansas that the legislature needs to address in the next legislative session. So just a minute to cite the 3 things, and we'll come back and ask you for some details later. So I'm going to start with Logan Ginavan. Can you tell us 3 things that you think are critical?
3 things. I'm kind of pulling 2 a little bit out of nowhere, but my first one is citizen-based initiatives. Second would be the right to vote for all Kansans. And the third one is going to be marijuana legalization.
Perfect. Thank you much. Brittany?
Yes, thank you.
3 critical issues?
Yes, of course. Unfortunate with just having a limitation of 3, there's so much more than that, but I'll just name 3 for sure. Education, already stated that, Medicaid, and pride in our identity and social justice.
Perfect. And last, if not least, Brooklynne Mosley, tell us your 3 issues.
Yes, the Kansas Health Foundation did a poll across the state for all Kansas, and these actually were things that polled very popularly. And then this is stuff that we can address to immediately improve the lives of Kansans. So it's family stabilization, which is childcare, healthcare, and food security.
Well, that was quick. Thank you. Now I'm going to give you guys a chance to rank them in order of importance and explain what the issue involves and why you ranked them as you did. So let's put a little meat in this 3 important things. I'm going to start with Brittany Hall. Can you tell us the order of importance?
Sure, I can do that. Again, I don't think we should have a list of importance, as I'm passionate about all 3, but recently I did lose my mother to dialysis and to kidney failure. So I know firsthand what it's like for our citizens to go through the struggles with Medicaid. It is very expensive. They shouldn't have to have those burdens for that. $70 million to free up the cost for our citizens, 150,000 Kansans, 73% of those to expand Medicaid. It's a no-brainer. We definitely need Medicaid to be expanded. Just recently, I met a gentleman while out canvassing in North Lawrence, and we have that similarity in common of his wife is going through dialysis and those struggles. And we shouldn't have that for our citizens and for our Kansans. We need more. We need to do better for that. And then do I go to the next one? I couldn't understand you, Jim.
Yes, go.
Okay.
Try to cover your next 2.
Sure. Okay. Education. We definitely need to make sure our schools are fully funded. I live in Pinckney neighborhood. My son has been in the public school systems for the last 2 years. I know what it's like to have a school closure. And it's not just Pinckney, it's also Broken Arrow. To have that anxiety and that fear of what's going to happen to my child, what's going to happen to the schools, no parent should ever have to go through that. We already struggle enough. And for people who are like myself as a single parent, we struggle with that. It's not just education, it's also higher education. Right now, Haskell is 100 million plus in deferred maintenance. It's not just Haskell, it's also KU, it's other universities. We need to do better for our school systems. And then also for our society, those who have been forgotten about, Again, I'm a lived experience of that. People should not have to worry about being followed within the stores. I've experienced that plenty of myself. We should have to do better for our healthcare systems. We need people to care about our healthcare. It's a no-brainer on that one again. Child tax credit. We need to do more for our families. It starts from a very young age and it goes all the way up to higher education, and then it continues. Kansans need jobs that they can afford. And if we can't afford childcare, then how are we supposed to work? We need to do more for our citizens. Deferred maintenance, education, Medicaid. We need all of those. So all of those three I'm very passionate about, plus more.
Thank you, Brittany. Brooklynne Mosley, will you give us your 3 critical issues and rank them in order?
Like Brittany said, you shouldn't be ranking them, but if I was going to go in order of importance, if I had to do that, I'm going to first start off with healthcare. Kansas needs to expand healthcare first because it's moral. It's a moral imperative. I am a daughter of a diabetic dad who passed away a few days for the election, which shows he had a sense of humor considering the industry that I work in. And the thing that kept him alive was that our family had access to good insurance. My dad had a medication that cost about $1,000 a week in our healthcare, and my parents' health insurance made sure that he was able to stay alive as long as he did. Over 150 Kansans will be able to benefit from access to this healthcare. It also is that we have been subsidizing other states. Kansas already paid for it. It's a 9-to-1 matching system. So we pay 10% and we get 90% of the cost back from the federal government. So that's going to inject $1.3 billion into the Kansas economy and also create over 23,000 jobs. So that's actually going to also help out people who may not necessarily need healthcare. It's going to get us good paying jobs. The next thing will be childcare. The childcare impacts us all, and regardless if you have children or not. The first 5 years of a child's development is very critical. Also, parents who can't find access to safe and affordable childcare have to make hard choices that's not always in the best interest of the child. We currently have a shortfall of about 85,000 childcare slots. And as someone who works from home, who is the last minute call for a lot of parents when they don't have access to childcare, I know that this is something that's very important to my friends who are looking for childcare regardless of their income. I will also say food insecurity would be the third one, even though food insecurity is actually really important. My little sister worked at Harvesters for 5 years, and our family used to pack back snacks for kids who did not have access to school food over the weekend. And it's really sad and tragic when you're packing a backpack knowing that a kid is not currently going to be able to go home to food unless you give this to them. And right now, our school district is also packing 10,000 meals a week for 10,000 meals a week or a day to feed our children across the district. And so that's a big deal. Food insecurity is a big problem. We've seen food insecurity in our state go up from 10.3% to 13.5% from 2021 to 2022, and that number continues to grow. That's the last data that I could find on it, but that number continues to grow. I sit on the board for United Way. I'm the chair of the Douglas County United Way board, so we look at the problems. You look at the Alice data. We have people, 40% of our whole county, it falls underneath the poverty line and falls within their low income or mid income, but they still can't afford to live in our communities. And that is a huge deal. We just raised over $600,000 that's going to go directly back into our community, but that still is not enough. So we definitely need to be focusing on these 3 issues.
Well, thank you, Brooklynne. And Logan Ginavan, can you give us your 3 issues ranked in importance?
Absolutely. And of course, I'm with the other 2 candidates that there's no good way to rank issues in importance. But if I have to, my first one that I believe in is citizen-based initiatives. Having a citizen be able to write up something that they believe in, gather signatures, and then allow us to vote on it. I think that would do wonders for democracy in Kansas, much like we saw in August of 2022 with the defeating the Value Them Both amendment. The second one I'm passionate about is simply the right to vote. The Kansas Supreme Court ruled that the right to vote is not inherent in the Kansas Constitution, and my mind is boggled, frankly. I believe that we need to secure that right for all Kansans, cement that into law for everybody who has the right to vote currently, and even expanding that to people like felons and people under the age of 18. My third issue would be the legalization of marijuana. And it all comes back to Missouri. In 2023, Missouri legalized recreational marijuana. And in the first year, they gathered over $100 million in tax revenue that went towards public schools and veterans and veterans. And that is money that Kansas is missing out on. And frankly, I can't think of any good reason why. Those are the three issues that I would like to see immediately tackled by the Kansas legislature.
Okay, thank you, Logan. The next question is for our candidates is, what is your strategy for getting a majority in the legislature, both Republicans and Democrats, to care about and support the issues that you care about? We're going to start with Brooklynne Mosley here. You have 3 minutes.
Yes. First, anyone who's been in the state capitol knows that this is no small feat. When I worked in Governor Laura Kelly's office in 2019, after helping her win the election, we saw how close we got to be able to how close we got to being able to pass Medicaid expansion, just to see that fall apart with the moderate Republicans getting a little shy. The first strategy is for us to break the supermajority. This seat is not going to have a general election, so whoever wins this seat, and also whoever doesn't win this seat, should be continuing to do the fight and helping us elect candidates to help us break that supermajority. It's only going to take a handful of seats to be able to sustain Governor Laura Kelly's veto, so that we can stop harm to our state. The second thing is that I have the unique experience of just working with a lot of different personalities and a lot of different people. If I can convince someone to drive to Iowa for free and give up their Super Bowl weekend when the Chiefs go to the Super Bowl for the first time in 30 years, you can convince a lot of people to do a lot of things. I think the big thing that we need to do is to find common ground when it comes to morals and values. I think that the big thing for us is really thinking about the fact that all of us want to live in communities where we can afford to live, where we work, where our kids can go to good schools, where we have access to healthcare and also leisure. And so really finding that common ground and finding co-conspirators. I've worked with a lot of the legislators. In fact, some of them I helped get elected. And so we really can lean in on getting together, finding individuals that can appeal. There's a lot of young legislators who want to do good, but we really won't be able to do good until we break that supermajority. We currently do not have that ability to really pass the legislation that we all care about, that compassion that Brittany's talking about. We don't have that ability until we expand our electorate and expand our seat count in the legislature.
Thank you, Brooklynne. Same question for you, Logan Ginavan. What is your strategy for getting a majority of the legislature to care about the things that you've outlined?
Well, frankly, I completely agree with Ms. Mosley. Breaking that supermajority is going to be the first and greatest step that we could make in working together across the aisle. But after that, again, I have to agree with Ms. Mosley. Finding common ground. We all live in Kansas. We all want to make Kansas better than it is for everybody that lives here and everybody who will live here in the future. In addition to that, I think we've just got to find more things that we agree on, because at the end of the day, all 165 legislators up in Topeka, they all have a lot of things that they agree on. They all, like I said, want to make Kansas a better place. And we've just got to find the things that bind us and not the things that tear us apart.
All right. Thank you, Logan. Brittany Hall, what is your strategy for getting the important concerns taken care of in the legislature?
Again, Logan and Brooklynne said it. It's so beautiful. We have to break the supermajority. And I want to say that for myself, I've already been starting to do this, similar to Brooklynne. With my work at the university, I've already worked with Republicans within the state of Kansas and within Congress, while advocating for Haskell and for other tribal colleges and universities. So that is something I've already started doing. And with Haskell and with my relationships at KU as well, I work with so many diverse people. It doesn't matter what we look like, what our political party is. There is so much diversity, whether it's political, whether it's social, whether it's cultural. Example, at Haskell, there's over 250 tribes represented at one time, and I work with those tribal nations. And so with that, I have learned how to navigate and how to work with my interpersonal skills to build those relationships. And even recently with Haskell in the border regions, we are in oppose with, it doesn't matter our political party, but with the selling of the land sale and the new Boston crossing, we're opposed to that. And so it's okay to say that we are opposed and to have our thoughts and our opinions out there, but to also be respectful. And I believe those are some examples, and I can help continue to do that to get results.
Okay, thank you, Brittany. The next question is kind of interesting because it goes back to priorities. And you're in the unfair position of having to make your priorities not only clear to us, but clear when you go to the legislature. What issue are you most passionate about? And what motivates and drives you to public service? This is a 2-minute question, and it goes first to Logan Ginavan.
Thank you. To put it simply, if I had to pick one issue that I was most passionate about, it would be protecting rights for everybody. In recent years, we've seen an unbelievable amount of attempts to take away rights from minority groups, from women to people of color, and it's frankly ridiculous. Kansas needs to be a safe space for all people. What drives me into public service is just a commitment to social justice and the belief that we can make a difference if we work together. It's about making a difference in the lives of our constituents and the lives of the people in our community and the people of Kansas. If you're not going up there to make a difference in people's lives, then why are you going up to Topeka?
Thank you, Logan. Brittany Hall, what motivates and drives you to public service? What are you most passionate about?
I just have to say again, I am that example. I know what it's like to survive and to barely survive, to thrive within our community. And I want to help others do that. I know what it was like being a young child in the world that I grew up in. And I knew as soon as I became a parent, I would never, ever have my son go through that. And so what I did is what we call in our culture is we break the cycle, we break that circle. And that's exactly what I did. And so with Kansans, and no matter what our race, our color, whatever our identity is, I want to help nourish that and to build that, because everyone is beautiful the way they are. Everyone is. And I want to help those who have been forgotten about and to make sure that we are in a safe environment, that our children have the systems that will help flourish them, that will help with their nourishment and their brains and their cognitive, and just give them those opportunities. We deserve that. Kansans deserve that, and we should do that for everybody. The legislature is 30% females. How many are single parents? How many are Native American? There's only one. I want to help do that and do that for our systems and for our people. My people have been here for years and we have not been forgotten about, but it's not just them, it's everybody. Medical has soared. I watched that with my mother. Housing has soared. Sometimes we have not been able to afford our rent, our mortgages. We shouldn't have to be trying to barely make it and survive. We need to thrive on that. And that's what I want to help. And that's what I'm most passionate about, is those who have been forgotten about, to make sure that they are not forgotten about. That social justice. And that's what I do every day with my work. And that's what I do in my home. And that's what I want to do for Kansas. Thanks.
Thank you, Brittany. Brooklynne Mosley, what passion drives you to public service?
The passion that drives me to public service is anti-poverty policies. When I was younger, my mother, she's an actress, and she volunteered for an organization that brought drama to children in the housing projects in Kansas City, Missouri. That was the first time that I ever got a chance to see people who did not have their needs truly being met. I recognize when people didn't get their needs truly met, but I recognize neighborhoods that were safe based off of how far I can go away from home. When I was in my neighborhood in Waldo, me and my friends at the age of 7 could walk to the convenience store. At my grandmother's house that was east of Troost, we could only go as far as 2 houses up, which is where my aunt lived. They had my grandparents' house, my great-grandparents' house, and then my aunt lived 2 houses up. I could only go that far. But when we went to that housing project, my mother said, stay in the car, and keep the door locked and don't get out. I did not see trees. I did not see the things that I saw in my neighborhood. And that was the first time that I recognized not everyone lived in places that I lived in. So when it comes to anti-poverty policy, I think that talent and intelligence is universal, but opportunity always isn't. But in Kansas, we can build a Kansas that opportunity is. And so the thing that really drives me to public policy is that everybody deserves a chance, regardless of where you come from. You don't have to have a sad story to be able to care about people. And I think that that's the thing that really drives me to public service. Service has been a through line in my life. I joined the military right after high school. For one, just so I was the oldest of 5 children. So I wanted to get money for college, but also because I wanted to do something that was bigger than myself. And I think that and I think that that's the thing that really has driven me to public service and also service in general. So yes, thank you very much.
Thank you, Brooklynne. Well, now comes the time for you all to get a chance to consolidate some of the things you've been telling us. And we're going to give you just 1 minute. And again, I'm going to remind everyone that these are our House District 46 candidates, Brittany Hall, Brooklynne Mosley, and Logan Ginavan, who are going to try to encapsulate what they've been telling us in just 1 minute. Why are you asking for our votes? And I'll start with Brittany Hall.
Yes, thank you. I'm unique. I have a unique history, unique perspective, and I want to continue the tradition that 46 has done and honor that. Logan, thank you so much. Brooklynne, thank you so much. I am very excited to be along with you too. Logan, graduating, having that accomplishment, that's really something to be proud of. And Brooklynne, as a daughter of a veteran, I just want to say thank you for your service. And I understand that. And that is beautiful. And we all have our journeys. And this is something that has brought us all together. And I think that's really remarkable to kind of celebrate. But for myself, you know, I have been here. I understand what it is like to grow up in the systems. I know what it's like to have those experiences. I have, and I will continue to be the lived experiences that our Kansans have been going through and what we need to be fighting for. It's not just myself, it is my son, it is the community that we have here in Lawrence, Kansas. I've seen this in the pandemic, and that was really hard and unfortunate. And even the fun times when we had the KU parades and celebrating on the streets. It's been a great time here in Kansas, and I want to represent everybody and have everyone have their voices be heard and to be welcomed. All for Kansas means all for Kansas. Hini, Leki, Nehiwe. Thank you. That is all.
Thank you, Brittany. Brooklynne Mosley, why should we vote for Brittany, for Brooklynne? I am so sorry.
No worries. You can say that sentence one more time. Just kidding. So hi. Yes. So I am running. I'm asking for your vote because all of these candidates here are going to be able to do a good job, and they'll be a great party line vote for the legislature. But after this election cycle, we're going to have about 3 more election cycles to go on before we get to the point of redistricting in 2030. We need to be building beyond just this district. This district is a very safe district that we can start talking about ideas that impact all Kansans that maybe some of our friends who are in harder districts may not be able to talk about, like issues that will improve everyone's life. I am asking for your vote, not because I want to be a leader in Lawrence, Kansas. Our leader in Kansas is because I've been a leader in Kansas. As soon as I stepped foot in the state, I rolled up my sleeve and I started doing the work to expand our electorate. I helped get Laura Kelly elected in 2018, and I've continued to do the work. So I'm asking for your vote. There's a QR code on my background. You can scan it. You can go to our website and you can find out more information about our full platform, Brooklynne Mosley for Kansas.com.
Thank you, Brooklynne. And Logan Ginavan, you have a chance to wrap it all up with the advantage of having heard everything. Why are you asking for our vote?
Well, this one is simple. I'm asking for your vote because I need your help to make Kansas a better place for all Kansans. Change won't happen just because we want it to. We have to get out and make our voices heard. Um, and so today, actually, instead of asking for your vote, I'd rather ask you to just make sure you get out and vote, regardless of whether it's for me or Miss Mosley or Miss Hall. All three of us, I'm certain, are going to do fantastic in the legislature. And instead of asking for your vote today, I just want to make sure that you get out and vote. Maybe bring a friend along with you.
Excellent answer. Okay, well, we are moving on. I want to thank all of our candidates for the 46th. I really admire you all for taking on this task. And while I'm in the admiration department, I would like
Jim, I'm going
to-
to interrupt for just a second.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's why I got a little sloppy on the timekeeper role because I had a phone call from Representative Ballard, who is not able to join us tonight. She is just back from a funeral and has some things she needs to attend to. And it has been a very hard day for her. So she sends her best regards, but needs to pass tonight.
Okay, well, thank you, Pat, for everybody watching. Since she is the incumbent and she's running both unopposed in the primary and also unopposed in the general, but we can depend on her to provide her experience and expertise in the legislature. I'm sorry that we've missed the opportunity for her to offer a little bit of sage advice to the rest of us about campaigning, about these goals and objectives and how to get them done. So there's my thank you to our always present Barbara Ballard. So we have one more candidate for the Kansas Board of Education, District 6. Beryl Ann New, and I would like to pull up a map for people who want to see what that looks like. So the way they have sliced off the Board of Education districts, Beryl gets an opportunity to run for the 6th, and this covers this northern part of Lawrence. And not on today is Chris Meyer, who's running for the District 4 slot. So I just wanted to show you that so you have an idea of what the district looks like. It's the purple part there. Let me stop my share and get on to the questions. Beryl, could you please introduce yourself to our audience? As part of your introduction, please include your expertise, your education, your experience that will help you do your job in the Kansas Board of Education.
Well, thank you so much, Jim. And I can begin by saying I just retired last year after a 35-year career in education. I attended Washburn University, where I earned my bachelor's degree, and that was my English teaching degree. So I taught at Topeka High School for 12 years. And then I returned to Washburn and earned my master's degree in school administration. And so, Logan, I was at Lawrence High for 5 years, from 2005 to 2010. And in 2010, I was asked to apply for a position at Highland Park High School. They were going through a federal turnaround grant process, a $7 million grant, often said is a bet by the U.S. Department of Education that we would not be able to turn the school around just because someone threw money at it. However, I'm the mother of 8 children and I'm a great budgeter. And so I was able to take that 7 million and even have some left over so they could continue the initiatives for a few more years. And so then ended up as a district human resources director. So those years comprise my 35 years in education.
Thank you, Beryl. What are the critical education issues that are facing the state of Kansas that the Board of Education needs to address? You have 2 minutes.
Okay, as we all know, we've experienced teacher shortages throughout our state and across the nation. A lot of them really came to light during the years that we tried to navigate our way through the COVID crisis. But coming out of that, we found that it's really hard to find good quality educators who want to serve our children. And so I think the state definitely needs to focus on making sure we are providing adequate funding to our school districts so that we can hire the best individuals possible in order to serve our children and prepare them for the future. So that, I would say, is probably the top issue. Another, school choice, making sure that we don't provide federal dollars to private schools, because typically if a parent wants to place their child in a private school, they have the family funding to be able to do that typically. And if they don't, there are quite a few scholarships that usually are available for those children. But to put our money on the children who really need it and the children whose parents are taxpayers within the community, so that we can serve them in the best way possible.
Thank you, Beryl. Of those that you've talked about, what are you most passionate about? What really motivates you to public service?
So having served as a HR director hiring certified personnel, I think it's critical that our Board of Education continue to support our school districts as it has over the last 4 years by providing alternative methods for individuals who have high level of skill, have degrees in other areas, and have a passion for passing on their knowledge to our young people to be able to enter teaching through non-traditional routes. So I think addressing the teacher shortage by making sure our standards aren't lowered, but opening the gate to some of those who may not have come down the traditional path as I did, I think that's going to help us quite a bit.
So the last question is the same that we ask our representative candidates, and that is, why are you asking for our votes?
Mhm. After retiring from a position that I love, which is public education, I realized that I'm retired, but I'm not tired. And so the opportunity for this new district came to me by way of some individuals that I respect very highly who have served on the state school board. And it just seemed, as Brooklynne said earlier, it was the right thing to do at the right time. And as I've grown in this journey, because I'm not a politician, I'm an educator, but as I've grown and learned some things, I'm realizing how important it is to have a voice that has experience in the field, but also has a compassionate heart for all of our children, and then the passion to serve. And I definitely know I do have that.
Beryl Ann New, I thank you for your service and education in the past. I come from a family where my siblings, no less than 6 of them, were in education, and I understand the mission and I appreciate your efforts.